Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games, the Week in Games. Let's get right to the news. Okay, sad news today. It was announced this week that one of the main online distributors, or one of the more well-known online distributors of board games, Fun Again Games, based in Oregon, is shutting its online doors. There was kind of a run on products this week, so I don't know that there's much left to order from, but it is kind of sad whenever I hear that online games are starting in a unique way. Their actual physical locations are still going to stay alive and well, but the online portion is gone. Why? I don't know. I mean, it was nice to have an online store close to my neck of the woods because product usually got here in 2 days instead of 2 weeks. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. There really isn't a clear-cut reason why that I know, but it's always sad, and I wish them well, and I hope that their physical locations will do wonders for them as well. Though it leaves us less online choices. Although to be honest, they were probably my third on the choice because of price and shipping costs. But that's sad. On a different note, it looks like Warner Brothers has hit the gold mine, the jackpot, be that as it may, with the new Batman game that they have kickstarted last week at a price point of $120 some odd bucks to get started. I went ahead and passed. That didn't stop a lot of people in the universe from joining in, though. Already it's several $1 million in backers for this game due out next year. So Batman's clearly popular. Warner Brothers has definitely hit the sweet spot, and we're looking at something really crazy for that. So next year, I think a lot of people will be laughing at me for not having been taken a part of this, but unfortunately, that's just a bit too steep right now. And with that, let's get to my question of the week. So this week, my son, my youngest and final child, began driver's ed. An exciting time in a young man's life, having worked his way to get half of the cost of driver's ed, which we make all of our kids pay. He is now, as we speak, learning all about the rules of driving that most of us now ignore. So that became a question for me to ask myself. What is my favorite racing game? There have been a lot of racing games over the years, a lot of them. And all of them have had a different kind of penchant, per se. Everyone kind of had a different angle with how to approach driving in a way that made it interesting. There's your standard, like, really boring, like, roll and move games. I'm talking about games that really took a driving or racing and did something fresh with it. There was Automobiles, which was an AEG title, which you used actual cubes in a bag, and that's what fueled your car. Very interesting, but not necessarily my favorite. That was one of the auto car games. And there have been several others that have come along that have kind of like a Thunder Alley. If you want a real simulation kind of level where you're actually dealing with, you're in more than one car. It's Thunder Alley. It's NASCAR, going around a track. You're contending with all of the different elements that go along with pure racing. But I just can't shake the Pitch Car. There's Pitch Car, which isn't technically really, but Pitch Car. But Crazy Carts. The list goes on for racing games. But I just can't shake the fact that of all of the games that I played, I still keep going back to Formula Day. Formula Day is it's easy to pick up for people. There's advanced modes for people that give you a little more oomph. I like the switching gears, gives you a different die, and that die gets you traveling farther. I like having to consider, just easily consider, how am I going to get around these turns? If I go too fast, I'm going to crash. And the tracks, the many, many tracks, I just can't get over the fact that no matter how many games have come along that I think have been very polished and really presented auto racing in a clever light, I still keep going back to Formula Day. I still think it's the main staple of any game that I would bring if I wanted people to just get racing. And there's definitely, hooping and hollering. It's great. So that's the answer to my question. Thanks for asking that question, faithful viewer that happens to be me myself. And now let's get to our 3 games. Okay, our 3 games of the week. of the reek. That reeks. That weeks. Alright, Empires of the Void 2. I just got this week. Look at the thickness of the box. Look at that. Very cool. Empires of the Void is a game by Ryan Lockett, known for Near and Far, Above and Below. I think 8 Minute Empire? Something like that. Anyway, one thing I know about Ryan Lockett's games is in the big boxes, there's a lot of pieces. And there's a lot of one-off pieces, too. There's just pieces for this and tokens for that and just all kinds of stuff. Crazy little boards. Like tokens and such. Really liking it, grooving on it, but it's not a game you're just going to go, hey guys, let's play this. It's not Zia. Well, even Zia had its complexities, but it was a little more straightforward, kind of what you were doing. But I just set this up and started going through a few turns. You can see the panorama of it here. As you're seeing, there's just a rich artwork, very vibrant, great pieces, great components. Very intriguing kind of gameplay. In some ways, it kind of strikes me as if you took Zia, Legends of the Drift, or Manliness of the Chicken Pot, or whatever. I don't know what the subtitle is. Zia, something in space meets something in space, and say something stellar as a subtitle. But there is definitely a Zia mix with kind of almost a Firefly kind of thing, little looser combat, but it's just different. Really good components. Looking forward to trying it. Like I said, I'm not convinced it's going to be the 4X game for me. I think Space Empires is probably never going to get dethroned on that one. Although that one's more dry of a like space sim, like the old style games you used to play on DOS and send your turn, email your turn, and then have all the ASCII art that says this is what the universe looks like and such. Or Starflight. That would be cool. A board game based on the old Starflight games. Yes, remember those days, Sonny? Yes, we used floppy disks. Anyway, next, Revolver. Strikingly decent. It's more of kind of a wacky, Wild West, spaghetti western without the subtlety and immense time in between. This is more of like a romp through, almost like a Zorro romp of back and forth between the bad guys and the good guys. The tin is clever, comes with just like a zillion little expansion packs. I got those on a dime, but I really like it. It's really lighthearted. Actually, it doesn't. Once you kind of get the rules down, it's all about blasting. You're shooting, they're shooting, back and forth. It's not like Doomtown, which is the ultimate like spaghetti western simulator, and that's got the tension, and that's got the posturing, and the jockeying, and the gunfights are like quick and fast, but there's a lot leading up to it. This one, you're just like guns blazing. This is like Full Metal Jacket, Platoon in Western days, Red Dead Redemption, kind of like, hey, let's go shoot stuff and take names in the name of glory, yeehaw, and finally, probably one of the most exciting things came in. I haven't even opened it yet. Unconditional Surrender. World War II in Europe. Now, this game was out a few years ago. I think 2014. It was just recently reprinted. This is a little out of my element because I typically have gone away from the long games that take the hex grid maps of this huge area and recreate down to the unit level what's going on. What's different about this is that it streamlines it more than I've ever seen a game streamline what is really a big war game. This war game, there's not even damage count. Like units, little units you move around, they don't have numbers for health or whatever. It's really high level. But it's done in such a way that you should be able to play it and enjoy it and feel like you're doing a lot of big things without getting like caught into the minutia that a lot of people like, but I don't. In fact, this game is listed as what is it? They said you could do a scenario in 20 minutes, but it would be more like 50 hours, 30 to 50 hours to play the whole thing. And that got me going, I'll try the 20-minute one and build from there. So I'm excited to open this up. Paper map's not my favorite. I'll buy the mounted board if I really like it. But I'm really curious to try and see if this one can hold my attention and I can really feel like I'm doing big, masterfully wargaming things without having to go through the checklists and stuff that eventually make my eyes glaze and me go on to say pinochle. And that's our 3 games of the week. Now we'll get to Tim's Tantrum. Alright, get off my land. Okay, I realized there's something I find very less optimal. Pessimal, in fact. There are certain games I have, and I didn't realize how much of a deterrent this was, but if you've ever had a game that has a lot of cards or things that you have to basically divide up, like say you have a game like, oh, Empires of the Void 2, or something like that, or Legendary or others, where you are chopping them up, like you have themed cards. And the one thing I realize that I don't like, or I get depressed about, is when you have, say you have 15 factions, and the rules say, take 7 of those factions at random, and shuffle them all into the same draw deck. That's when I realize I have a lot of work to do when the game is over. And oftentimes, I will spend more time going, I'm going to have to undo all those and reorder them again. Empires of the Void actually has you do it with 2 different decks. It's a little interesting. Is that lazy or what? Seriously. For Legendary, I get away with it just because I'm like, I really like the game enough that I'm willing to do that. But I definitely wish that there are ways that they wouldn't say, hey, take this subset and mash it all together, and then that becomes the game, and then at the end of the game you've got to extract those all back out. Dominion does that, but I get away. For some reason it's so quick, because all the whole game is pulling 10 decks out and then playing the game, and then putting them all back together. So because that's the whole culmination of the game, that's, for some reason, better in my mind. But when you have a game and you're set, like Empires of the Void has 2 pages, 4 pages of actually just setting up the game. And so having to mix and match and figure that out, it was kind of painful. I don't know that I don't know that, it isn't that it's bad, it's just that it's probably going to cut down the amount of times I'm going to be motivated to pull it out and play it. Or if you're like me, sometimes you get this whole you get this configuration of games and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to tuck all that back there and just play with that for a while, and I'll play 3 or 4 games just without having to go rearrange again what cards I'm going to bring in. I told you, lazy. Well, that's my tantrum. Maybe. And with that, we come to the end of our episode. Finally, we have the pick of the week. That's right. If you can guess this, I will give you major mad props, blah, 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 etc., etc. See disclaimer, not offer invalid in Kansas and Arizona. And with that, we come to an end of the week, and we will see you next week on Harebrained Games.